Yeah, good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see the platform is full within few seconds. And I am very happy to say that we are back. Panchatantra Planet is back with another interesting program. And today, we are addressing one of the most important aspects, that is about the children. Everyone across the globe is concerned about how to manage kids. And especially in the post-COVID scenario, I am using the word post-COVID because schools are almost getting reopened. So at that time, we are all worried how we will be able to manage our students. What are the challenges? And all those things are troubling each one of us. And we got one of the best counselor to address all these issues. And let me introduce her and welcome her first. We have today Mrs. Anupama Anand. Anupama is a counseling psychologist, career counselor, and parenting coach with a rich experience in the field of applied psychology. Her ability to assess situations in a practical, clear, and empathetic manner has helped in developing rapport and maintaining a relationship with her clients over the years. Over the last decade, she has been associated with schools and colleges in Bangalore and Chennai, both as a counselor and facilitator, conducting a variety of workshops in soft skill development, parenting concepts, communication skills, career advancement, and the like. Her passion is to bring out the natural and cognitive abilities of students using multiple intelligence in cooperation with their parents so as to explore the unique potential of each child. She conducts workshops for parents, teachers, and people in the education field on the second Sunday of the month. She is a registered practicing counselor with the Chennai Counselors Foundation. She is currently a counselor at Chennai Mathematical Institute and an associate parenting coach with Parent Circle, Chennai. From her exposure, I am quite sure that today's session will be wonderful and it will be insightful and it will be useful for each and everyone present over here. And we have an audience comprising teachers, principals, and parents. So I hope everyone will benefit out of it. I wish you all the best and a wonderful session. And I wish you, Anupama ma'am, also a wonderful session. I welcome you to the session. Welcome you, Anupama ma'am, to the platform of Panchatantra.
Thank you, Radhakrishnan.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. And also, I would like to extend my welcome to all the directors of Panchatantra Planet. Along with that, I welcome all the participants who joined us on the Zoom platform and also on YouTube to watch this wonderful program. So I welcome you all. Thank you. Now I hand over the platform without wasting time to Anupama ma'am to address the audience. And before that, Let me tell you, at the end, there will be a question and answer session. So let ma'am present without any hindrance in the beginning. After around 60 to 70 minutes of her presentation, there will be around 20 to 25 minutes for questions and answers. Okay, thank you. Over to Anupama ma'am.
Thank you, Radhakrishnan sir, for such a warm welcome. Namaskara and very, very good evening to all of you present over here today. Without much ado, let me share my screen with all of you. Okay. So yelling is a word, I think, which does not need any introduction. We are all very, very familiar with this word. It's a word that we use and which we do quite often. It's synonyms such as screaming, shrieking, shouting. All of these we are extremely familiar with. It does not need any introduction at all. And which is why probably I think it has also become a topic of not only conversation but also research today, not only in India but also abroad and everywhere, as to what is it about yelling that makes it so different for all of us. In fact, as a society, we believe there are various situations, various instances where we justify yelling, where we think it is permissible. And we also think it's okay, it's all right to yell. We are going to start today's session by seeing some of these situations where we allow, yelling to be justified, where we think it's all right to yell. So let's start off with when we think yelling is permissible. When somebody comes and complains about your child, or your child does not perform according to your expectations, when a parent believes it's okay to correct my child and discipline my child by screaming, shouting, or yelling, we think it's permissible, it's all right, it's okay. If we look at it at a much closer instance, let me give you an example. My daughter plays badminton, and when she was playing at a competitive level, there were coaches who used to be on the, watching the match. And if the child was not performing, invariably the coach would start pushing the child by saying, grip the racket properly, move, stretch, you need to reach every place, come on, you can do it. And in the bargain, they increased their tempo and they were literally yelling at the child to perform according to them, to the child's potential. So there are times when coaches, teachers, instructors, their desire to inspire their students pushes them also to yell. Again, here we find this quite acceptable in our society. When in an office setup, in an organization, whenever an employee has made a mistake, or there has been some error of judgment, a boss rebuking, shouting, correcting a employee is quite acceptable. We think he's the boss, it's perfectly all right if he corrects us. It's the right thing to do. In fact, he should yell and he should see to it that everything is made okay, and it's all right if he shouts at his subordinates. It is accepted by us. When we want to go out with our family, or we go out with our friends to have a meal out, we may make a reservation at a restaurant, and despite going there on time, sometimes they ask us to wait and they say, we'll escort you to your seat. They escort a number of people, and you see people have come after you are also escorted. We suddenly feel we are not getting the attention we need. We start screaming and saying, where's the manager? We start gaining the attention of other people. And even this we consider as a society to be very, very permissible and allowed. So we think it's okay. Yes, that person has a right. He's, booked a table. It's all right. If there's an accident on the road, the person who is right believes he has to show he's right, and therefore starts yelling at the person who he thinks has made a mistake. Again, a situation where we believe that it's okay, it's correct, he is right, he is on the right path, the other person made a mistake, so he has to assert himself. And that's again something that as a society we think it's all right. There are some people who don't show too much of emotions. So others who are, who have a lot of emotions, who want to provoke somebody, they again start screaming, they yell in order to bring out some reaction from the other individual. And again, they believe it's okay, I'm doing it for their good. So under this umbrella of protection, under the umbrella of concern, care, correction, we all believe it is okay to yell. In fact, yelling has got quite a range of emotions which are associated with it. If you go to a sports stadium, when you're cheering for your teammate, somebody who you want to win, even then we are yelling, we are screaming and shouting and urging them to win. Again, there the emotion is happiness. There's a surge of joy when the person who you're cheering for wins. When we see yelling as such, and even as a species, if you see us, we are very emotionally driven. We like to exhibit our emotions. We are extremely impulsive. And also, we are quite confrontational. We do not leave a single opportunity where if there is there is an opposition, we are fundamentally influenced to take up that opposition. So when we look at yelling, there is a huge gamut of emotions that we can actually see. The primary emotion that we are all most familiar with is, of course, anger. There are times when we see a threat, when you see your child or somebody on the road who's walking and a bus is coming, then we see that as a danger sign. Then also we yell because we need to alert the other individual. We say it's okay, we are, it is a threat, so therefore we need to yell. So there are many more such instances when we are afraid, we yell. When when we think that we are defenseless, we are in pain, we are calling out for help, then also we yell. So we find that these are all situations where we think yelling is acceptable, where we think it's okay. But many a times, please do understand, a verbal confrontation with anybody where you are disrespecting that individual, where you are trying to even motivate that individual by using belittling, by calling them names, by not addressing them properly, by showing your authority, what invariably happens is that you are leaving that other person with a residual negative feeling. And it has never been, in fact, it is rarely proved to be beneficial both for the person who's yelling and for the person who's receiving the yelling. In fact, let me take a very, very simple day-to-day situation, since all of you here are teachers, are caregivers, or parents. We all believe that we need to when it comes to our children, one of the things that we need to do is raise our voice when we talk to them, because when we raise our voice, we believe that the child is listening to us, and when they listen to us, they are going to pay attention and they will follow it every time. Normally, you will find that yelling is just a way of letting the child know that you are extremely angry. And when you are angry, do remember your emotions have hijacked your thinking. You are not in a position to think. We cannot think when we are extremely angry. We cannot be logical when we are angry. All we can show is that anger, and we show it in a number of ways. And when this anger is seen by the child, what happens is the child will become initially very afraid, because a person who is considered to be their safety giver, a person who is considered to be a protector for them, is suddenly in this form who is shouting and yelling at them, and therefore they don't know what to do. And hence you are gaining compliance from your child by shouting at them, by yelling at them, and therefore they listen to whatever you want them to do. So if you are saying you're all the time watching your gadgets or watching the TV, shut it down immediately, and you start yelling at them, what happens is immediately they will comply with it, not because they have understood what you're saying, but because they are scared of your tone. They know that when you're angry, it is not a time to provoke you further. They don't want to do anything more to get you angry, and therefore they listen to you. This is a very short-term way of disciplining a child, because a child does not even know why they are listening to you. Initially, it is only fear. What happens is when the child is very small, let's say a 5, 6-year-old child sees you yelling, they will listen to you. They will do what you want. But gradually, and research, especially research, even as far back as in 2003, when the Journal of Family Marriages did a research on families, more than 1,000 families, what they found was more than 90% of parents who had children below the age of 10 yelled. And if you look at the parents in adolescence, the full 100% yelled. And what they realized was, when there is a lot of yelling in the family, the child gets used to it by the time they are 9, 10 years old. They develop this attitude of tuning out. And then what happens is they start training you to yell. And gradually, as you start yelling, your intensity goes higher and higher and higher. So they are training you so much that finally your pitch, when it started, it could have been low. Now it has gone high. And unless you yell at that pitch, they no longer listen to you. And at some point in their teenage, they may begin to even yell back at you. So when we are looking at yelling as a discipline, do you really think that you are gaining what you set out to do? Because what you set out to do was to teach them some particular lesson, was them to know something that they need to do. But are you achieving it in the long run? In fact, many researchers, psychologists compare yelling, especially when we yell at our adolescence, to tantrums which are thrown by 2, 3-year-olds. Because when a child is throwing a tantrum, what is the main objective? The objective is you command the attention. You are not in control of your emotions. And more than anything else, you want something which you want to achieve. And that is basically what happens even when we are yelling. So this is how a yelling to discipline actually happens. So this is just a basic intro to why we yell when we are trying to discipline. In fact, a lot of study has been made into this, and I would be taking you through it. So I would like all of you to please have a paper and pencil where we can, you can probably note down things. Please use the chat box extensively, because I'm going to be asking you a couple of feedbacks from you, a couple of pointers from you. And if we make the session a little interactive, then it will at least bring about a little bit of exchange of ideas, exchange of thoughts. And it's very important that I understand where you come from and we are able to progress together. Right. So in order to understand yelling better, what I would like all of you to do is please have a paper and pen, because we are going to go back. Oh, yes, I forgot to ask you, do you know that fear is a kind of, yelling is there's a fear which is associated with yelling. And what is the fear of being yelled at called? Do you know that there is more than one term to the fear of being yelled at? Does anyone have any idea what it's called? You can please share it on the chat box. It's called hygrophobia. Also phonophobia or sonophobia. Sonophobia or phonophobia is more with respect to the loudness of a sound, but hygrophobia is definitely the fear of being yelled at. And gradually over a period of time, we find that this has a huge impact on the people who are listening to yelling continuously. And they find that when a family, there is a lot of yelling more than 25 times in the span of 1 year, there is a lot of brain damage as well. There is a lot of impact on not only the behavior, but also the body and mind of the child. So let's move on. Yeah. So I would like you to think about a time, preferably in your own childhood, when somebody yelled at you, you were yelled at. How did it make you feel? If you can share in the chat box, that would be really very nice, because it would build a bond between you and me. If you want to write it down and you don't want to share, that's also perfectly okay. But so when you were yelled at, how did it make you feel? It made you feel shame, guilty, yes. Very nice. There was a fear in you. You felt very sad. Yelling completely inactive artwork. Yes, you freeze. So what happens is yelling creates a fear in you. You feel insulted. Yeah, you feel oppressed. Very nice. I really, really thank all of you to start putting in your thoughts over here. You feel very, very sad. So the residual feeling in you is not a very happy feeling, and you are feeling very down. Exactly. You can go blank because you're frozen. You don't know how to react to these things. You feel very lonely. Yes, there is a sense of abandonment because you are looking at people who are supposed to protect you, who suddenly are in this form which you don't associate with. So you feel abandoned. Yes, you feel guilty. Right. Despite all this, what also happens is we carry these negative feelings with us. We move on with our life with these negative feelings, and they impact us also in the long run. You hit the Tenuki, you hide the feelings, yeah. You feel insulted, yes. You don't feel respected. You were just yelled at. You feel discouraged, exactly. So now I would like you to look at another situation when you expected someone to yell at you. Okay, so you have done something. Maybe you've broken something. You have done some mistake. According to you, you've made some mistake, and this person did not yell at you. How did you feel then? Yeah. So as I can see from all your answers, most of you, when you were yelled at, felt shame, demoralized, insulted, ashamed, guilty. These are all the feelings which stay with you for a very, very long time. They just don't vanish. They have an impact not only on our behavior, but also on our mind. Right. Okay, so let's go on to the next question. When you expected someone to yell and they did not yell, what happened? How did you feel then? You feel relieved. Yes. You feel, okay, fine, it's all right. Yes, you can also feel very confused. Thank you, Vijay Lakshmi. Yes, that's a very different perspective. You may feel happy, or you may have a confused look because you don't know when you're going to get caught, or whether the person's going to do something which you're not prepared for. You feel you've escaped something, but you're still unsure. There is a tingling feeling of insecurity still sitting very deep down within you because you know you've done something wrong. And over a period of time, you sort of feel you have escaped. Right? Now, with all this in mind, yes, normally the feeling when somebody did not yell at you is relief. You're amazed. If they take it very happily and if they share it saying that you broke it, it's okay. You are actually amazed because you're used to somebody with a different reaction. Right? So let's proceed to the last question, which is, you yelled at your child. Did you feel justified? I have given you various scenarios where we feel we are justified to yell at our child. Various times when, we yell and we think we were right because we need to discipline them or we need to teach them a lesson. So by and large, all of you don't feel it was justified. Sometimes, yes, there are times when you do feel you were justified. Right. Wonderful. Yeah, you guys are a wonderful audience. The kind of response that I'm getting, I really, really, really want to appreciate all of you. At certain times, we do feel justified. Probably when there's a threat or when we are afraid for them, yes, we can feel justified then. But by and large, what is the kind of feeling that you're left with is something that we are definitely going to explore as we go on. Right. So I'm going to go on to the next slide. When we look at anger, okay, now before we go on to the elements of anger, what anger is, I want to share with you a personal story. Okay, so so when I was brought up, and it is true, and it has been proved through research that it is one of the primary ways that yelling is passed on from generation to generation. So I want to narrate to you my own personal story where I was brought up by parents where my father was a yeller. And every small thing, in fact, there was never a time when I was prepared for him to yell at me because I would not know what would trigger him off and he would yell. And I would only feel very scared, sometimes very frozen. And some of the answers you gave, I could really, really relate to it because that's what I felt. I felt I didn't even know what I could feel at times because I was frozen. I did not know how I'm supposed to react. And I really didn't know what was so wrong about what I did or why was it that he was yelling because I could not understand what he was saying. So when this happened, what invariably went into my mind as a child and as I was growing was, yes, I did feel a lot of panic and confusion, Arshdeep. I realized that I don't want to become like this. And therefore, somewhere along the line, by the time I was a teenager, late teen, I realized I don't want to become this kind of a person. I don't want to, if I have a child, I definitely will not be yelling at this child that I have because I don't think that's a very nice feeling to pass on. Surprise, surprise. I have a child, and my son is today 22. But at the time when he was a very naughty 3-year-old, I realized that one day when he did something, I burst out at him. And when I burst out, it was then that it struck me that not only was I using the same language that my father did, I was also using the same body language. I was standing in exactly the same way. Um, and I was trying to depict the same kind of character. That was a huge wake up call for me, that that unconsciously, unknowingly, I have taken in all these characteristics, and today I am also passing it on. So yes, Sudha, I am in this position that my father yelled at me, and it has almost been a long while that I had to work a lot on myself to get out of the habit, which is why I realized that this is something we all make a mistake with. We all need to learn, because as parents, we don't have guidelines, we don't have people to help to explain. Yes, we have books, but many a times we don't even read those books. We don't have the time. We don't have someone to tell us what is right and wrong, because these things keep changing. And as parents, our situations, our circumstances change. So we really don't have any particular person to tell us, yes, you have, achieved a mastery in the way in which you're doing things. So it took me a long while to work on myself. And I realized that there were two basic elements when we look at anger. Can any of you tell me, what do you think are the two factors which are responsible, for our anger to burst out? What are the two factors that work on us? What is it? It's not panic and sad. What works on us to make us burst out yelling? What is it? Expectations? Yes, all these come under one very big umbrella referred to as stress. Now, stress works on us in a number of ways. It works on us internally, because we have expectations from our child, we have expectations from ourselves, and many a times we have a number of unmet needs. We may be tired, we may be hungry, we may be exhausted, we may not even have a support system of grandparents or someone to help us out, or a neighbor. And invariably we also could be shouldering a lot of responsibilities. So therefore what happens is, these internal stresses start working on you. Added to which, you can have external stresses also, wherein you could have it could be very hot, you've traveled, you've really worked yourself out, you may be a working mom, or you may be volunteering somewhere, you have a lot of pressures on you, you have deadlines on you, you are exhausted, and all these line up to your stress. And what happens is, ultimately all this stress, it's a combination of anxiety, stress, everything works from us at a very innate level. And when this starts working on us and we find that things are not going in our way, when we are not in control of things, okay, what also happens along with the stress is, we get all these escalating thoughts. So basically, what is a trigger? A trigger is something which is external, which is outside, which gives us a cue, which is a turning point, and then we start spiraling out. So when we are in the stage of stress, when something happens, then what also combines along with the stress is a whole set of negative thoughts which start coming in. Either we blame ourselves, or we blame the people around, or we blame the situation, but our thoughts are all negative, and they go spiral till we go boom and burst. And when that happens, it's like a dam bursting. And at that time, we are not in control of ourselves. Therefore, at that time, what really happens is, we sort of just let go, right? So therefore, please understand, anger is an emotion, it's unavoidable. And many a time, we also, to our own children, we may be angry with somebody else, but they are easy targets. So we come and show the anger at them. So there is a lot of displaced anger also, wherein we come and show it to our children. There are times when we want our children to listen to us, and we keep telling them, you know what, if you don't do this, you're really making me angry. I really am going to be very upset if you don't do this. So what are we doing over here? We are putting all our emotions in their hands. We are basically allowing the child to control our emotions, to control our buttons, like as though we have a remote control. Just imagine they start pushing our buttons for us. And therefore, when we want actually to control the situation, we don't have any control over it. It is like holding, the beach sand in your hand. The tighter you try to get control, the faster the sand falls out of your hand. So therefore, what happens is when we are in an angry situation, we have all these thoughts which are working on us, which are coming into us, and we also find a lot of changes that happen to us. So if we actually have to see what is the impact on us itself, when we look at ourselves, can you tell me, when you are angry or when you see somebody angry, what are all the physiological changes? What are the physiological changes? Basically means what happens within you. There is an increase in your heartbeat. Maybe the breathing starts increasing. You start feeling hot all over. You can please share whatever your thoughts are in the chat box. You don't need to necessarily wait for a question. If you have something to ask, you want something to share, yes, your blood pressure goes up. You may even feel sweaty in your palms. You can feel a tightness in your jaw, a warmness in your collar. There are times when, you can feel a tightness even in your muscles, right? So all these changes come about internally within your body. And what happens? What's the kind of body language that you exhibit? How are you showing this onto the person outside? Yes, our blood pressure increases. Yes, we are aware of that. We are aware that we are getting hot, heated up, right? But apart from physiological changes, we also have body language that we show outside, show to others. What is it that is there in our body language that shows that we are in the midst of high emotion? We probably could be stomping around. We may not have energy to just stand. We can be walking around, shouting and, moving around in circles or moving up and down. We may be having our hands on our hips or using, the index finger for a warning. There could be so many changes in our body. Our eyes could be popping out. Our face could be looking very funny. There's a lot of aggression that is there, which is coming out of us. So, all this which is coming out of you, please realize it is being observed by the child. Because what happens is, when you can see this pie chart over here, this is referred to as a communication model. This is how we communicate with anybody. You can see that the first thing that people notice are your body language, the way in which your hands are moving, your body is moving, how you're looking. Are you looking face to face, eye to eye? What is the kind of the posture that you're using? This is what a child, a parent, anybody, we all observe this when we go and meet other people. We notice, like, we judge a book by the cover. This is what we observe when we see somebody. We see what is the body language they exhibit. Are they smiling? Are they welcoming? Are they approachable? How are their hands? So this is what even your child is observing in you. The next thing that they observe in you is your tone of voice. How is your voice when you're yelling? It is high, you're shrieking, it is high pitched. And when you're so high pitched, sometimes some people can be yelling for hours together. There have been reports of children who have severe brain damage, who said, my mother used to yell and yell and yell for a very, very long time. And when we yell, we have no control over our words. We may be belittling the child, name calling the child. We could be using a lot of language which we don't have a control over. We could be humiliating them. We could be disrespecting them. And ultimately, what happens is, when the child hears this entire tone, they only hear the way in which you're saying things. They don't hear the words as much, because words ultimately constitute only 7%. And when they actually grow older to understand these words, they have a deep, deep impact on the psyche of the child. So if you see, only 7% are the words that we use. The rest of it all is what we exhibit. It is in our body language. It is in our, the voice that we use. And finally, what are the after effects after you have yelled? Can all of you share with me, how did you feel when you yelled and, you finished your yelling? How did you feel? Prajwal, you have a question to ask? Can we have it at the end, or could you type it out? You feel uncomfortable, yes.
Anupama, just to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Okay. See, on YouTube also, you have your mobile in your hand near you. open the YouTube channel and keep. There are a lot of responses coming there too. Okay, on YouTube channel chat.
Sorry, I have not done that. I will do that immediately.
You have the link. You have the link. I
Yes,
have shared. I think.
Yes, I have the
Just
link.
open it and keep there because wonderful comments are coming over there also.
Oh, okay.
Responses for your questions and all. I just checked.
Okay. Sorry, I have not been watching that. Yes.
Yeah. Now you got it, no?
Yes,
okay, they also will be happy. If you can respond, some of them, they will be happy.
Sure,
Right?
definitely. I would love to respond to,
At least let them know we are checking that too. That's all.
So, yeah.
Yeah, okay, ma'am. Okay, you can continue. I'm sorry to bother you in between.
I'm finding it difficult, Mr. Radhakrishnan. Can you help me out with the YouTube? Because even this, I'm watching the responses. I'm watching who is doing it. Who's giving the response.
Okay. No issue. It is going well. Okay. Fine,
because
fine.
Then it is too much of a distraction for me seeing everything and responding.
Yeah. Okay. No issue.
Yeah. So when we see the after effects on us, what are the after effects? We feel very bad. In fact, we feel ashamed of ourselves because this is not what we want out of ourselves. We are exceedingly self-critical. We don't like ourselves to be this way. We feel that we have let down not only the child, but ourselves as well. So this is the kind of after effect that is there with us. We feel ashamed. We feel guilty. Yes. After yelling, you feel very tired. You feel exhausted. And what do you think is the impact on the child? Like I said, you are the protector for the child. The child has nowhere to go. The child really feels abandoned at this point of time. And this is what is a residual impact that is there on the child. They have no clue why you yelled. Yes, later we try, and later on we try to do a lot of things. In fact, we overindulge the child also. So one of the impacts of yelling is we try to patch up. And when we try to patch up, we also overindulge the child. And we really don't know how to make up. So therefore, we allow them to get away with a lot of things which you may not have normally allowed them to. Yes, the child is very scared. Yes, we will be getting into what actually happens with the child. But first, let's understand what happens to us. These are all the changes that happen to us. We feel bad. We feel terrible, in fact, and we tend to criticize ourselves. We forget that we are human. We forget that there is only so much even we can do and that we are allowed to make mistakes. And yes, there is always scope for us to improve. There are times that we are not 100% in control of ourselves. So before we go on to what happens to the child, let's understand what happens to us and what is it that that happens to us that we would like to change. Because when we are yelling, it's not a very nice scene either for us or for the child. And definitely, like I gave you the example of my own father, what happened was I also unknowingly, unconsciously picked up yelling. And this is what we are passing on as a legacy to our children, because we are trying to tell them, listen, when you're angry, it's okay to yell. That's how we express ourselves. And is that the message that you would like to pass on? Miraj Ali Khan, you have raised your hand. Would you like to ask a question? Okay. Right. Let me move on without getting so distracted. You can ask all your questions right at the very end. And I'm really sorry if I'm unable to take the YouTube suggestions. Please, if you can post them.
No issue, ma'am. At the end, no issue, ma'am. At the end, we can take up. If any question is there, at the end, we can take.
Okay.
No issue. I will help you out.
That I should
Don't bother. You
to manage. It's a little difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, now I want to introduce you to what's called scream science. And this was something which has come about in the last couple of years, last 4-5 years. They found that screaming or shouting or yelling is very different sound than any other sound that is made by us. Anything else, any other way of talking, any other way that we use to express ourselves, we find that screams have a very, very different quality. And this has been researched in the US. They took around 25 volunteers came in order to understand the scream science, which was done by a number of psychologists and neuroscientists to see the impact of screaming on people, on children, so different age groups were there. They tried to understand what exactly makes screaming so special. So first thing is screams have a quality which is known as roughness, which measures how quickly the loudness of a sound changes. So when somebody is screaming, what happens is there is a loudness which is associated with it, right? While normal human beings, the speech varies in loudness between only 4 to 5 hertz. What happens is screams change the loudness rapidly to around 30 to 150 hertz. It's like sending a huge shock or an alarm through our system. Okay, it is like as though we are allowing this. When we give shock to patients, when we allow an alarm to run through us, that's the kind of reaction that happens to us, and that is the reaction that comes out of us is therefore the response to yelling. And where do you think this response is coming from? Where do you think all these sounds go to? If you actually look at it, when they understood what scream science was about, in fact, what promoted this scream science as a mode of study was, I think around 2010, even in India, we decided that corporal punishment should not be allowed on children. We should not be spanking them and hitting them. And therefore, what happened was, at that time, we all stopped shouting, hitting the child, and it was not allowed. And in the US, a lot of strict action also was taken. But what happened was gradually people resorted to yelling, thinking that yelling is perfectly okay. It's okay to allow ourselves to yell at them because it's fine. But what was actually happening was when we yell, we instigate the fear system in us. And actually, if you see, unlike sexual abuse, unlike physical abuse, verbal abuse does not leave any scar which can be seen by anybody. The scars are all in the mind, and the scars have a long, long, long and deep impact on all the people it has been implicated on. Of course, genetics plays a very, very strong role. There's also circumstances which play a very strong role depending on how they've been brought up after that. But what actually happened was, as they did this research, they found that, when we hear somebody talking, all the sounds go to our primary auditory cortex. Okay, now when we look at the primary auditory cortex, it's right above our ears. So when we hear a sound, we try to discern, is it somebody talking? Is it a man? Is it a woman? How old are they? Is it a sound of an animal? Is it a sound of a bird? Immediately, that is how our senses work. But when somebody is screaming, it does not go to the auditory cortex. It goes to what is referred to as the amygdala. The amygdala is considered to be the seat of your fear circuitry. So your amygdala is a part of your brain, which is the reptilian brain. And we have all come from hunters. We have all come from people who have been always ready to ward off danger. We are always alert to see what's happening outside. And this is what the amygdala is, what is responsible for what is technically referred to as the fight, flight, or freeze response. So we then get alerted to either fight off what is happening, in which case we are ready in defense mode, or we are frightened, we are scared. And if you see small children, they shut their ears, they shut their eyes, and they just go hide under the bed or sofa or somewhere, which is again fear. They don't know how to react. And sometimes we freeze, like somebody had said, they become blank. So the amygdala is primarily responsible for this. So when somebody screams, every sound goes straight to the amygdala. And what does the amygdala do? It leaves out a stress hormone into our blood system. And it's called cortisol. It is released into our blood system. And repeated doing of this, always alerts us to danger, always keeps us on alert mode, wondering, okay, where's the next danger coming from? And along with this, what also happens is there's a huge tightening of our muscles. We are ready to run. We are ready to attack. We are ready to defend ourselves. And this is the kind of response that comes on each and every time somebody yells, because the pitch, the sound, the tone is so high. I just told you the decibel levels are exceedingly high. And this is the kind of response that happens. So if you can see, I've actually tried to mark the sensory areas and also the amygdala, how it is and how it goes. It's very close to the brainstem. The impact, the reaction is extremely fast. So don't you think what happens when somebody else. It has been found, especially when a lot of study was done by the National Association of Mental Health, they found that the impact was not only, with just the amygdala, there was a lot of psychological impact on the child. And what was the kind of psychological impact? Years later, they found many of the children, when they understood, they took an MRI scan of the brain, they found the entire formation of the brain itself was very different for those who have undergone verbal abuse, especially when it has been a very sustained, continuous form of verbal abuse. What has happened is these kind of children, as they grow up, many a times they do suffer from anxiety, depression, problems with sleep, problems with adjustment, personality disorders. They also have issues with phobias, interpersonal relationships. And there are a multitude of problems that they come up with at a psychological level. If you look at the cognitive level, at the thinking level, what happens is, because all the time your amygdala is on alert, many a times such kind of children have an issue with their auditory system. That means their language understanding, their language comprehension, the way in which their speech develops also gets impacted. And hence, what will be their verbal IQ? That will be low. And when your verbal IQ is low, it impacts your communication. So we find, that this entire yelling, how it impacts your brain, how it impacts your thinking, how it impacts your full personality, it can have a huge, huge impact without we ourselves realizing what is happening to us from inside. And your muscles are always trained, your muscles are always on alert. And this is the kind of person you become. You're always alert for danger. So even a small sound is, causing you to react. And this is the complete impact on the brain that happens to us when somebody yells at us at any point of time, anything which we are not used to. This is the reaction that comes to us. Okay. So now, what is the impact on the child's relationships? When we are looking at the child, now I told you, let's first focus on ourselves. Let's first understand how, we are impacted when we yell at somebody. We also need to understand that when we yell at the child, when we are continuously speaking, our intentions are perfect. We want to teach the child, right? We want them to become better citizens, better people. We want them to understand why we are shouting at them. Yes, we have a lot of reasons why we are doing this. But in the bargain, what is it that we are teaching them? What is it that we are, what is the message that we are passing on? The message that we are passing on is, I'm angry. And when I'm angry, this is what I do, I yell. And therefore, your child also learns that yelling is perfectly okay. Your child learns that, if they have to pass on a message to somebody, yell. It's okay. It's all right. It's acceptable. Right? And when they do it, maybe you will not then be okay with it, because you may then think, why is he yelling? But where has he learned it from? You have modeled this behavior. He has learned it from you because he thinks that's how it has to be exhibited. In fact, what also happens is, because children learn it from you when they're angry at the time they're teenagers, it lends into a yelling match between you and them. There are a lot of yelling matches which happen because you are angry, you're provoking the child, you are inciting the child. Like I said, we are very, very influenced as a species by opposition. Immediately, the child also responds, and there are shouting matches which happen, right? Invariably, by the time they are teenagers, they would be talking back. They don't understand what is respect, because when you are yelling, you don't respect yourself, you don't respect the other person as well. And therefore, you have developed this complete rapport between you and the child, where you allow them to hit back at you. You allow them to I can see a number of people are worried as to what to do instead of yelling. Yes, I would be coming to it. It is part of today's presentation. We would be learning how to handle ourselves. But first, we need to understand what is the impact on the child, because their social relationships get very badly impacted when we continuously yell at them, because they think it's acceptable to yell. And like I told you right at the very beginning, as a society, we think it's all right to yell, but the impact on the brain, I have just shown you how it is that we get impacted by it, how children get impacted by it. What happens is, continuous yelling, when it happens, the relationship with them becomes very, very unstable and volatile. And when this definitely your relationship with them comes down. Their trust in you comes down. They feel humiliated with you around because you're always yelling at them. You're always telling them, some things that they should not be doing. They feel very low. They feel depressed, and they learn to hit out. They learn to, tell you that because they're hurt, they feel threatened. Like I said, the amygdala has got alerted. When you feel threatened, you do all kinds of things which may not be the best. So your relationship with them is very unhealthy. So who do they depend on? They become very influenced by their peers. They don't want to listen to you, and they gradually start getting completely influenced by them. They don't want to spend time with you because they do not understand or respect you. And this has been going on for a while. When anytime you say something, they're only tuned to your yelling, and they lose complete confidence in you. So this is the impact on the child's relationship with you, right? Now, how do we handle ourselves when you are getting angry? We all spoke about the various things that one should be aware of when you are getting angry. You know you're getting angry. You all said blood pressure. I also give you examples of what happens within us, the physiological changes that happen within us, what happens to our breathing, what happens to the way in which we, look at ourselves. What happens at that point of time? I told you our emotions completely hijack our thinking. So what is it that we need to do? The minute we know that we are feeling all these things, you may be feeling angry, you may be feeling sad, you may be feeling overwhelmed by the circumstances, you need to ask yourself, what is it that I am feeling? I am feeling sad. When I say I'm feeling sad, rather than saying I am sad, when we say I am feeling sad, then there is always a hope, there's always a scope for improvement. When you say I am sad, that is the end of the story, you sort of accept it. When you say I am unhappy with the way my children are behaving, I am angry with somebody else and I brought the anger home, please ask yourself, what is it that you are feeling within you? Are you seeing a particular behavior which you exhibit, which your child is exhibiting, which you do not want? Find out what that is, ask yourself, accept it, understand what is happening to yourself. We do feel all these changes that are happening to ourselves, our senses. So be aware of what is happening to you. And when you are aware of what is happening to you, there is a simple policy referred to as stop, drop, and breathe. Many people follow that. It's considered to be a very, very effective thing, wherein you take a timer out, you take 2 minutes to understand what's happening to yourself. You take this time, you realize that, okay, my breathing has gone high. I am feeling a little itchy on my hands. I'm going to scream. I'm going to shout. I am not keeping too happy. So when all this is happening, what you need to do is first and foremost be nice to yourself. We refuse to understand this. We refuse to accept that we are human. We are overcritical of ourselves. And therefore, what happens is we don't look at ourselves as human beings. We tend to expect a lot from ourselves. Yes, we are capable of a lot, but we are also capable of making mistakes. We are also capable of reacting. And most importantly, when we are not in command of our thinking, we need to understand that we have to learn to bring our balance back. So please ask yourself, what is happening to me? What is happening to me internally? What are my thoughts? Like I told you, there are escalating, triggering thoughts. Let me give you a very, very simple example. If you have left the house for say 1 hour, expecting your children to clean up their rooms or set the table, and you come back and the house is still in a mess. In fact, it is worse than what you left. You come back, you start keeping things back in place, and then one of your children asks you, is lunch ready? And that is the final trigger. You've already done a lot of work from morning. You're already tired. You're still doing a lot of work. And finally, this child asks you this. You go into this loop of negative thoughts, saying all the time, they take me for granted and they don't listen to what I have to say. I seem to be a servant over here. Now, this negative loop has to stop. How do you stop it? Be kind to yourself. Stop and say, you know what? I'm really doing my best. I'm really putting in a lot of effort. I am trying to be the best mother. Please stop yourself, whenever you have negative thoughts, because those thoughts don't help you. They don't help you reach your goal. They don't help you in understanding yourself or your children. So please, whenever you have negative thoughts, A, about yourself or B, about anybody, stop. Because many a times we are triggered by only the behavior and not the person. We are not angry with the person. We are angry with the behavior the person has exhibited. So please take a time out and stop. Okay. The next thing you need to do is breathe. Breathe. Allow your blood pressure to come back to normal. Be aware that your breathing has gone high. You need to bring it back, bring it low, bring it down, calm yourself. In case you feel that your breathing is still high, you're not able to control, walk out from the room, go away. If you want, go to the bathroom, shout, scream, flush the toilet and come back. Maybe you need to, have a cup of tea, have a glass of water, do something which will help you bring your composure, your calmness back, because it's very, very important that we remain calm. In case you want to teach your child something, you need to allow your emotion to subside and your logic to come up. That's the only time that you can relate to the child. So when you calm yourself, you are able to see the situation for what it is. When you are not calm, you think you are seeing something, you think you expect something of your child, and therefore you react to it. Right? So please calm yourself. If you feel that you're getting very angry, you can't leave the house, you have to sit in the kitchen. All of you have atta in your house, you have atta, take a bowl of atta, make nice roti dough, punch it, take out all your anger on that, you will get one of the best rotis for your life when you do that, because you're taking out all your anger there. So create such kind of circumstances where you can take out your anger on things which can be useful for you. Learn to calm yourself. Maybe say some mantra, listen to some music, do anything which will bring your breathing back to normal, bring you back. It will take you only few minutes, which you can afford to take. So stop everything, drop everything, and be extremely conscious of who you are, what you are, and calm yourself down. Now, once you have done this, decide what is important for your child. Why is your child behaving this way? What is you can start watering plants. Yes, that's a very, very good idea. Water the plants. If you want to, throw the dustbin kachada out, take it and throw it out. Do a lot of things which take you out of that scene, gives you a space of mind, right? Now, once you're calm, decide what is important for your child. Is your child getting upset because you're not giving them attention? Just give them a hug. Maybe they just want you to listen to what they have to say. If it is an older child, it could also be that this child needs boundaries set, needs you to tell what is it that they want you to do. So you may need to sit down with the child and talk to them. You may need to work it out with your child as to what actually happened. And for that, you need to be cool, calm, and ready to listen. So please be aware that many a times we need to decide how to handle this situation. And most importantly, empathize with the child, because the child also goes through a lot. You're not the only person going through things in life, even they go through a lot. So it is important we are trying to understand what is it that they are going through. What is it that provoked them to not listen to you, provoke them to behave in the way in which they behave? Because that is a very important thing. When you understand yourself, you understand your child, the temperament that the child has, and how you can improve your relationship and communication with the child. Suppose you have managed to yell at the child, and we all agree that we feel very bad, right? When we are doing all this, we also need to understand that one of the most important things that we need to model with our children is to tell sorry and actually believe in doing that sorry. Okay, so when the whole situation is over, yes, we like to go and talk to them. We need to apologize to them. And when we apologize to them, we are also showing them that, listen, you got angry, you shouted, but you need to take remedial measures. You need to go back and apologize for the way you behaved. Yes, you have 101 excuses for it, but you also need to know how to cope with it. And that's where the apology comes in. So just to make you understand, let me give you an example of, a situation where I had a client who had come to me when she had just blown up on her 6-year-old child. And she had a complete breakdown. She knew she needed help. So she had come to me and she said, you know what, I'm getting too angry. I'm unable to hold my emotions and I take it all out on my child. And I helped her out for a session or two. And then finally I asked her, is it okay for you to take the help of your child? And she said, she's only 6. How can I get her help? So we started working on how is it that, because she realized she was getting angry mostly with her child. So what she did was she told her daughter, what happens? She asked her, what happens when I get angry? And her daughter explained to her how her face changed, became very funny, and how her hands on her hips made her very scared, her voice, her tone. And then she finally told her daughter, will you help me? And this girl was such a sweet little child. She said, of course, Mama, I will help you. And she told her, whenever you see this happening to me, I want you to show me the sign and say, breathe. And you won't believe it. The next time the child got up and did breathe, the mother listened. And she took her time out. She went down, calmed herself, and came back. And repeatedly doing of this allowed herself to handle the situation. So please realize you can take help from your family. You can take help from those who are around you, who you are impacting, because at the end of the day, most importantly, we need to be kind to ourselves, empathize with ourselves. If you think that the best way of being nice to yourself is give yourself a hug or give yourself a kiss on the hand and say, you know what, you're doing a good job. Just be calm, just be okay, just breathe, do it. So please understand these 5 steps because they are very, very crucial in handling a situation when you are in the midst of it. Of course, like any other event, like any other, whenever we are decided to do something, you're deciding to go on a diet, you're deciding to take up exercise, it's always nice to have a tracking of what we do. When I say tracking, we need to write down, we need to have a journal where we write down, okay, fine, what was a triggering event? What was it that made me shout? What was it that made me yell? There could be a lot of stress factors that are working on you. We are not asking for that. The first thing that you need to write is what was the one thing that made you blow up? Okay, write down what day it was, what time it was, where it was, because all these things also may have an impact on you. Some people get very stressed out on Monday mornings. Some may get very, when you are exhausted on a Friday. That could be the day when you are, very exhausted and every event may trigger you. So write down what is the event that is triggering you out, what day. Maybe sometimes mornings, you're not a morning person. So mornings, when everyone starts bombarding you with questions, you get very irritated and you yell. So please be aware of when it is that this is happening. See whether there's something proactive that you can do. And sometimes when there are places where you can get irritated when you're driving a car or when you're cooking and somebody keeps asking you questions, or when you're on the phone and your children keep bugging you with more and more questions, you may yell at them. So, when we are yelling, they also say some of the things that can help you is when you're yelling at your child, you don't want somebody to see you this way. You may have somebody who you think is very important, and how would they view you when you are yelling? So if you don't want that image to pass on, even that could be helpful for you. So think of a number of things that can help you when you are in the midst of yelling. Writing down. So first you write down the event, write down your reactions, your physical reactions. What happens to you physiologically, your emotions, because our emotions control us. Like I said, you could have a lot of residual emotions from your childhood, from various experiences and exposures that you've had. And what are your escalating thoughts? A lot of negative thoughts that come in, write them down. Take them out of your system. The more you take them out of your system, the less they have the chance of staying in and working on your psyche, right? Then your response to the trigger. Now, please understand the first day, the second day, maybe even the third day that you write this, you may be reacting to a trigger. You may be immediately doing something which you're not too proud of, and you may yell at your child. But gradually you will find that your response to the triggering event, you have learned to handle it better, which is why it is important you track these events so that you realize, where am I going? Am I improving? Is there been, are the techniques working for me? Is there something that I need to change? And therefore it's important you note it down, have a journal. What is the aftermath after you yelled? How did you feel? Like we all said, we all feel exhausted, tired, ashamed, guilty. And how did your child feel? It's very important to understand yours as well as the other person's feeling, because you've humiliated them, you've shouted at them, you've disrespected them. So when you are hurt, the other person is also hurt. When you are calm, try and figure out, how could I have done this entire scenario differently? What could I have done? What is it that, provoked me that I went over the edge? What is it that I can do so that I could have handled this entire situation without yelling? So this is something that we all need to work on constantly. Somebody asked me at the right at the beginning, you had a father like this, you've turned out this way. Yes, I had to do a lot. I had to work a lot on myself, where I realized what was happening to me, the impact on my children. My children today are 22 and 18. I started when they were 2 and when my son was 3 years old, 2, 3 years old. He was a naughty little boy, always pushing me, always trying to tell me, that I needed to up my game as far as being a parent is concerned. I learned a lot with my children. And that's probably one of the reasons why I think it's important that I create awareness. And before I go, I want to tell you a beautiful story, which was a turning point in my own life. I want you to remember this. It was a turning point for me, so I would like to definitely share it with you. The story is about my uncle and aunt. They stay in Bangalore, and this happened many, many years ago when there were no mobile phones. They were going to, they were going for a family function. They have two sons. So their elder son was in second year of college, and their younger son was in the 11th standard. And they were going for a family function, which was on a Sunday. The two boys had refused to go along. They were staying in Bangalore in a huge apartment, and they were leaving on a Saturday night and flying back Sunday night. They just attend the function and come back. And most of you who are familiar with Bangalore know that Bangalore has two stations. You have the main station as well as the cantonment. And most of the trains pass through both, and they even stop at both. So their train normally stopped at the cantonment station. So they told their children to take care of themselves, gave them all the instructions that they wanted. And it was all a very planned thing. So they left. They go to the station. They're waiting at the station platform. The train comes. It doesn't stop. It just zoomed past. All they could do was wave bye-bye to the train. And they just stood there. They didn't know what to do. They had missed the train. They can't go for the function. Now, what was the choice left to them? And in all this, they had spent, they had come 15, 20 minutes before the arrival of the train. And they had waited over there. The train has gone. Now they have to go back. They have to catch an auto or a taxi. So, by the time they went back, so the train was in the evening at around 7:15. That left their house by around 5. Then they reached back home at 9 o'clock. And what do you think was happening in the house? There were two young boys. They had a lot of friends. They had called everybody over for a party. There was a full-fledged live kicking party over there with all boys, girls, a lot of children from the building, a lot of children from the college. And there was free-flowing drinks. There were children who were smoking. And the parents came back to this house, which was live. It was active. It was, zinging with music and children smoking and dancing and talk and so much of noise and laughter. What would you do in this place? How would you react? How would you react to this scenario? Please share on the chat box normally what we would do. And I will tell you what this uncle and auntie did. Would you like to share? You feel happy? Okay. Okay. So what actually happened was this uncle and auntie realized that, shout at everyone. That's a normal reaction. What could we do? We would get so angry. How do these children take their, we were given them a responsibility. We have, expected them to, yes, I would love it if we could, be silent and join with them, ignore or be a part of it. You know what? We don't want to ignore the smoking and the drinking because we are very worried that our children also will catch on to it. So ignoring it is a very, very difficult thing to do. Now, what this uncle and auntie did was they realized that the children were having fun, but they were also a little concerned that, are my kids also smoking? Do they know how to handle drinks? And they were very worried. The younger one was also getting into drinking. They didn't mind, the elder one was 19, 20 years old. So if he had a drink, it was still okay, but they didn't want the younger one who was just 16 to start. So what they did was they quietly walked into the house, went to their room, kept their things, looked around for their boys. And the boys were shocked. They're shocked to see them around. So they took them aside and they said, you guys seem to be having a very good time. We've missed the train, but I need you to ask them to leave by 11:30. We'll go out for dinner. You guys have a very nice time. We hold you responsible for what's happening over here. We think, we trust you to behave in a manner which you will be proud of. And they left and they went away for a dinner. They came back at 11:30 only to find that all the kids had left, except for a few who were planning to stay over, and they were only from the building. And the kids were actually cleaning up the house. And this incident really, really changed me because it showed me a side that I probably would not have thought of. Normally, we all believe that when we see such an incident, when we see our children behaving this way, we will shout, we will try to argue with them later. We'll try to tell them that what they did is wrong. Even if it is later, we will probably go and tell them, you know what, you took your liberty for granted, you took your independence for granted. This is not the way we thought we would do things. We may have some residual anger which we may take out. But this was something which was completely unexpected, where they understood that, they went down to the level of understanding where their children are, what their children are doing, empathizing with them, understanding that they needed to be with their friends, and also gave them guidelines. Yes, have your freedom, enjoy. We have come back, unfortunately, and we would like the house back when we come at 11:30. I think it was a very, very beautiful scenario, which made me think every time I was with my child, because when I was with my child and I was thinking of what I wanted to do, I would always think, is this how I want my child to learn from me? Is this what I want to do? Is this the kind of person I want to become? And that taught me a lot of things, because definitely I wanted to be a better me. So I really hope I have answered, I have helped you in getting a good insight into yelling. At any point of time, you have any questions, probably you may not ask it today. You want to, connect with me later. My details are all given over here. You want some sessions for your schools, you want sessions for your community. Please do not hesitate, connect and contact me. I would be really, really happy to connect with you. Charu, you have asked how to reverse the damage done to a child. There's nothing called reversing the damage. It's being more aware. The minute you start changing the way in which you interact with your child, automatically you will find your child responding to you. So once you are aware of what, that is why I said the ABCDE is extremely, I think I'll stop sharing now, because I think we've all become very clear on the various stages that I've shown. See, we know that this is the psychological impact. We know that this is the impact that we have done. So it's very crucial that we do the damage control today. So first, handle ourselves, be nice to ourselves. And then, like I said, we need to follow the ABCDE. We need to believe in ourselves that we can definitely be better. We can definitely do the right thing, whatever we think is right, and how we need to handle it, how we need to make it, make the next generation not become a series of yellers. Yeah. So any questions anybody had asked? You had all wanted to know how to handle it. So I hope the ABCDE is very approachable to you. You all came out with wonderful suggestions of how to remain calm, how to handle yourselves better. What are the things that you can do to disassociate yourself from the scenario where you are yelling? I think that's a very, very important thing, where we learn to dissociate ourselves. So you can always talk to them later. You can always have a word with them. When you feel your children are going out of hand, when you are in a calm state, when you are calm, your logical brain is thinking, your emotions are balanced, they're well within your control. When your emotions are hijacked, that's not the time when you try to control or try to bring in discipline to the child. Yes, I think I need to see any more questions are there.
Yeah, audience, there is a time you can ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can raise your hand, then we can unmute also, and you can ask.
Please, you can unmute and ask, because I finished sharing my presentation. Though I think there was some little kid who was busy showing all kinds of, extra colors and coloring to my work. I added a lot of pizzazz to my presentation today, but
no, he's not there now. He's
okay. He really brightened up my.
I was observing him. No, I was throughout. I was observing him. We saw video. I was observing him throughout.
Yeah.
And I was removing whatever he does.
Hmm.
I was removing that scratches and all what he is doing.
We are intimate many times without yelling, even though they not improve. I'm not able to understand this. Okay, when we want to work with our children, when we want to get them to work in a cooperative model with us. We need to then talk with them. We need to get down to their level, understand what is it that, can work for both of you. You have expectations, so does your child. So work with both of them as to what is it that can work out. And when you work out a solution, when you work out a particular way of conducting, you also need to have consequences. You cannot have a boundary without consequences. So when for example, you may say, I don't want you bringing your mobile to the dining table. I don't want you sitting at the dining table with your mobile. And you need to explain to your child that the dining table is a time when you talk to everybody. Whatever are your reasons, please once you do this, and then get your child to say what is it they look at the dining table at, understand their perspective, draw your boundaries, and very clearly tell them this is the rule. And if you break the rule, what are the kind of consequences that we can take? There are no punishments, there are only consequences. Okay, so these are things that you work with your child.
Yes, Miss Radha, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, ma'am. I am having one question, ma'am.
Please.
Ma'am, that you told, you reversed the number order that you told, no, ma'am.
What number order? Sorry, I didn't understand.
You, ma'am, one thing that you told, no, ma'am, to reduce my stress.
Yes. Yeah.
So
somebody you start counting the reverse order. Yeah, you can do that. You can count from 100 to 1 or 20 to 1. See.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That only, ma'am. If I started from 100 to 1, in between that time itself, also, ma'am, I can't control my anger, ma'am. Even though I will use some bad words also, ma'am, that time.
Right. So when you are aware that this system is not working for you, you need to do something else. So probably the best thing is go away from that situation. Right. So you're still standing there and you're doing this counting. Right. Yes, Radha, you are still in that situation, right? You're still standing in that same room. Take a time out, go to the bathroom, go for a walk, have a glass of water. Do if something is not working for you. See, we don't have textbook remedies, textbook solutions. What works for somebody need not work for you. For someone, counting backwards.
Suddenly, the bad words come out of my mouth, ma'am. Within a fraction of seconds, my words are very, very harsh, ma'am, that I can't control myself, ma'am.
Okay, so first and foremost, we need to understand that there is nothing that you cannot do. Okay, the minute you tell yourself, I can't do it, what is happening to you? You are accepting that this is how I'm going to be. So if you want to change, the first thing is, till you are in a balanced state, you don't talk anything at all. You need to keep calm. So that's why I said your emotions have to be in your control. Then we can bring logic in. So if you're still feeling like saying something bad, some wrong words, please go to the washroom, go to the bathroom, finish taking out everything, flush the toilet, flush it down. And then come out when you're feeling a little, splash some water on your face, feel fresh, come back. At that time, if you still feel that you need to say something, think about what you're saying. Do you first understand whether you're calm? Because only then you can make sense to the other person. Otherwise, what happens? We'll scream and we'll shout. And I told you, what happens, how we observe other people, nothing will go in. They will just not understand anything. They don't listen to you at all because of that.
Okay. Yeah. There is a question in the YouTube, audio YouTube. I will read out.
Please.
Okay. How to hold back anger and yelling at children and fellow workers.
Yeah, so that's what I had given the entire model to them. First and foremost, when we know, how do we know that we are getting angry? We are getting angry. We are having a lot of stress. All our lives, every one of us, each and every one of us have stress. In every moment of our life, there is something which is either irritating us, provoking us. There are internal things. See, we have also unmet needs. There could be days when you have not slept properly, when you may not be eating properly, when you are expecting some help from your spouse that is not happening, or there are external stresses. All this is working on you. And how do you know it's working on you? Because you are able to be aware of the changes within you. So this is what, even with your co-workers, there is no rule which says that a boss has to shout at his subordinate, but we accept it. What is the kind of image that that boss is showing to the others? He's showing a face of himself which he himself is not proud of, but he gets away with it because we think as a society it's acceptable. So please understand, if you do not want to show this bad side of you and you think it's a bad side of you, then you need to work on it. Be aware of yourself. So the first thing is be aware of yourself, what is happening within you, what is the body language that you are exhibiting, and be nice to yourself, be kind. See, let me give you an example. Suppose, your neighbor comes and tells you, I shouted at my child, I got angry, I screamed, I had no control, I even wanted to give him one fat on his back. What will you do? Will you tell her, yes, yes, go ahead and hit him? No, you'll ask her to come in, sit down, have a glass of water, cool down. It's okay, we all have bad days. We try to cool that person down. We empathize with them. We tell them it's all right. We don't do this to ourselves. So treat yourself as a friend. Sometimes look at yourself as an outsider. Tell yourself it's okay. This is one of those days. But be aware that this is happening to you. Be aware that these things happen not only to you, but you need to handle it in the way that you can. You can handle it. The minute you say, I can't handle it, that means you don't want to change as well. So if you want to change, you need to start developing a sense of what's happening within you, what are the thoughts that are going within you, because these thoughts, whatever they are not good, they're not positive. And as long as they are not positive, please do not open your mouth and say them, because those words only are going to create a negative impact, not only for you, but for the person hearing it also. Okay, so please be aware. Yes. Any other questions?
Any more questions? Audience, any more questions?
I hope it has been, fruitful. It has been interesting for all of you. Please feel free to contact me at any point of time in case you have queries. I'd be more than happy to listen and to understand where you come from. So
any more questions, audience? Otherwise, we will be moving to the next procedure.
Yeah. I really need to thank the audience. I think I had a wonderful audience, both probably on YouTube, which I'm sorry I could not relate too much to you, but definitely the audience who is here. I really thank you for taking the time out and coming in today. A big, big thank you from my side. And of course, Planet Panchatantra for giving me this wonderful opportunity of showcasing something which I felt would be very useful for people. It has definitely been useful for me. Thank you.
Yeah, audience, feedback form is given over there. Feedback form is given over there. You can fill it. You will be getting the certificates within few minutes after you fill the feedback form. Yes, Nagaratna, you can ask your question. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, ma'am. It was really nice and enlightening session, kind of. I just have a doubt. I'm teacher. Sometimes children get conditioned to yelling. Until we yell, the class would not be ready to listen. How to handle these kind of situations? This is the doubt as a teacher, because they get conditioned from the younger age. They think like, okay, teacher should yell, then only we'll be quiet or we will be ready to listen. In these kind of situations, how to uncondition these kind of things, because I think it has to happen from all the other teachers also. It cannot be by a one person. Please suggest.
Okay, so first and foremost, children will behave in the manner that they don't always behave in the same way. In fact, they will be behaving differently with you as a teacher, and with other teachers also they may be behaving differently. For starters, when we begin this habit that we create of yelling, we are only creating a degree of fear in the child to listen to you. Like I said right at the very beginning, we are only conditioning them to listen to us because they are scared of us, because we are an authority figure and they are scared of this authority figure, so we yell. Right? Now, what would happen if you just stood there and kept quiet? They'll continue yelling. How long? 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 days, it's worth it. The minute they know that you're not going to do anything, gradually you will find that they'll keep quiet. It's up to you to maintain your balance. Every teacher cannot be like you. You cannot expect everyone to work in tandem with you. You may be the person who's a pioneer in the school to start off. See, children think that somebody shouts, only then I will listen. But what happens if you don't shout? Like I said, if somebody did not shout at you for a mistake that you made, how did you feel? You felt relieved. Then you immediately think, the child will think, okay, the teacher has not shouted, what should I do? Then they become uncertain how to behave. Gradually, you will find everyone keeping quiet. And that is the time when you thank them for their silence, because you need to appreciate them for keeping quiet. You need to appreciate them for the good behavior that they have shown, because the more we appreciate something which is good, the more we are giving them the assurance that they need to work the same way. So when we give them that, it's, I'm not getting the right word for it. When we we positively give them a stroke, saying that, yes, I appreciate your good behavior. I appreciate you quietening down to listen to me. Thank you so much. They are 100% going to repeat this behavior for you, because they know that you appreciate it. When it is done out of fear, there is no appreciation for it. It is only fear. So 1 child, 2 child, 100 children, you find that different teachers have different kinds of ways of handling children. And there will always be that one teacher somewhere in the school who gets the children to keep quiet without saying a word. You can be that teacher.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the wonderful answer, ma'am. Anyone else? Otherwise, we will be moving to the next part. Shaiju sir, are you ready? Can we go for Thanksgiving?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm ready.
Yeah. Then we can. You can start, Shaiju.
Okay. Very good evening to one and all present over here. I feel it was a wonderful session. A very thought-provoking, interesting, and really practicable as a person who yells more in school. That person is me. I feel that today Madam has given wonderful insights and solutions to solve this problem. On behalf of Panchandra Planet, I thank Madam Anubama for this wonderful session. She has researched a lot and given wonderful solutions which the teachers of schools, even parents at home face nowadays. How to control the children, how to stop yelling at them, how to manage our anger, how we cannot be hijacked by our emotion. Madam, you really explained well, and it is a wonderful experience for all the participants who were here from beginning. Once again, I thank you, ma'am, for this wonderful opportunity you have given to us through Panchandra Planet. Next, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Mr. Radhakrishnan, Director of Panchandra Planet, for hosting this beautiful program. I thank all the directors of Panchandra for hosting this beautiful session. Now, I would like to thank our wonderful audience who have been very active from beginning onwards, listening to Madam's words and answering the queries. And thank you for this wonderful presence and supporting us from beginning. Thank you, audience, and keep supporting us by participating in all the programs or all the webinars we will be conducting hereafter. I once again thank all the audience. Now I would like to express my sincere thanks to Mr. Abhilash for the creative and Mr. Robin for hosting this platform. Thank you, dears, for this help from your end, and I thank all, one and all, who were participating from beginning onwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
thank you,
Mr. Radhakrishnan.
Thank you, Shaiju. Thank you, Anupama ma'am. for making time and coming to Panchatantra Planet and helping us once again, right? You were there before also once.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the second time you are coming. We will be still waiting for your session again. So next time we'll
Definitely my
contact you.
pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
thank you for a wonderful audience. I couldn't have asked for a more, responsive audience. Really, thank you all.
Right. And also on the YouTube, also there were wonderful audience. They were commenting a lot of wonderful comments over there. And we could take few of the questions also. Even now they are asking for the feedback form and all. I have shared over there. You can, and those who are on YouTube, I'm telling you, you can submit your feedback form within 10 minutes. Then we will be providing you also the certificates. But after 10 minutes, I cannot entertain because people will be simply entering and submitting the feedback form. So within 10 minutes, those who we will provide the certificates. So thank you, everyone. And wait for the next week. Next week, we are planning to come with how to help difficult children. Difficult children in the sense academically, those who are not able to perform well, slow learners and all, how to help them. We are going to come with another amazing, what I can say, resource person called Bharat Saraswati Nair. She's an expert in that learning difficulties. It helps supporting people in learning difficulties. So we hope all the audience will join next week. We will let you know the timing and all later. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you. So we are waiting just for 5 more minutes. Those who want to fill the feedback forms, you can do that now. Anupama ma'am, if you wish, you can leave. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Radhakrishnan, just request you, please, can you share the video as well as the feedback with me? It would really help me also.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. On YouTube, it is there, ma'am. On YouTube, it is there. Whatever link I shared, on that, you can see that video. You can download also from there. You can download also.
And I would also, if you can be, if it's okay, send me the feedback as well. I would like to see, areas that I can also improve
Sure.
and things.
I will get back to you within 2 days, ma'am. We'll provide.
Thank you
Robinson,
so much.
please download it. Okay. Robinson, please download the feedback forms. Okay. And consolidate it. We'll get it back.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure, sir. Sure.
Bye.